Now today I'm going to discuss what leads to the majority of ear infections. It's a question that we've been getting a lot this summer, and here's why that's important. And when you look at the location for what causes a lot of ear infections, what we find is there's a lot of areas that are really jammed up, they're locked up, and what we almost call like a plumbing system, it's not allowing that drainage to move effectively. And so therefore, instead of having this movement of water, if you think about like a river, not a lot of algae grows on a river, but hey, if things get dammed up, stopped, stagnant, like a pond, all of a sudden, hey, there's a lot of algae buildup. There can be a lot of bacteria built up there in the ears and lead to a lot of ear infections. So what we typically see is, hey, when things get jammed up top, usually that upper part of that nervous system, right at the base of the skull, that's one of the most common areas that we find gets jammed up just from birth, whether it's a great natural birth or really invasive, really challenging birth for a kiddo. It just doesn't allow things to move down properly and drain. But not only do ear infections start showing up, that same area is really responsible for a lot of growth and a lot of development as our kids get older. And we have almost a 3-year-old and a 4-month-old, so we want our kids to develop as effectively as they can, but also we want that plumbing system to be draining properly from the ears, down throat, into the lungs, gut, and then get flushed out. So I'm Dr. Chris Hill, and we help kids get healthy and help keep kids healthy. And so we're going to really dive into 3 main components here. This is not my best drawing, but we're going to talk a lot about just drainage and the sequence for why this even starts in the first place and how do we get out of it. We're going to talk a little bit about that plumbing aspect, but then we're going to talk about a couple things at the end that you can do at home along with removing that tension, removing that stress to support the body to get rid of this. So the first one we're going to talk about is sequence. And what we typically find is we use technology that allows us to scan the nervous system. And what we find is when we're dealing with a lot of, whether it's a sickness, an illness, but a lot of ear infections specifically, that top area right up here at the base of the skull, it gets jammed up, right? And so there's a lot of soft tissue that connects, the inner aspects of the ear into the upper part of that neck and nervous system. And if things get jammed up here, instead of that fluid draining like it's supposed to, it just gets locked up. And kids especially, their ear canals are horizontal. And so it's really tough already for them to drain effectively. And then as we get older, they start to angle down and it's a lot more effective. And so if it gets stressed up here, the fluid just doesn't really have a lot of areas to go to. And so we can start to see that build up, and then it turns into ear infections, and then it becomes chronic, right? It's like, hey, we got out one, but now we're into another ear infection. So the one area up here that we're talking a lot about, one of the biggest causes for that is from birth, right? Birth is just tough. And whether they're going through the birth canal, their head's getting compressed, puts a lot of tension along the neck and shoulders, but also like C-section, there's just a lot of stress and tension placed at the top part there too, where we see ear infections. Now plumbing, right? I kind of put some arrows here because these ears are going to start to drain down, right? And you want to see it really work its way down to the gut, so that way it can get removed. Next time, maybe if your kid's sick, pay attention. Typically, if it starts up here, if there's a lot of sinus, if there's a lot of congestion, what you see is you want to see that move down, right? And what you'll probably notice before long is, hey, they start getting a really raspy cough. Their voice gets raspy, and then it moves down maybe toward the lungs and starts to get really wet when they're breathing. You can hear it. And then just watch out. A couple days later, typically we see their poops. They're really nasty, dark. They're just different than what they typically are. So you typically see that illness work its way down, but you want to see the same thing when it comes to the ears. And that's really what we're looking for with our technology is, hey, what kind of stress is located up there at the top of the neck? How do we get rid of that? And so the number one way that we know is, hey, if it's locked up and if it's jammed up there, we got to get in there and we got to remove that to free that river up, really, right? Remove the dam so the water can flow again. And we know one of the best ways to do that is with really a specific chiropractic adjustment. We can get in there and free that up. But there's also things at home that you can do that can support that. Probably the most common at-home remedy we hear is garlic oil, right? Garlic has an antibacterial property, so you can put a few drops of garlic oil in the ear, do it several times throughout the day, And so that could be something that you can just have at your cabinet at home that's easy to find, whether it's at a Whole Foods or natural grocers, to just help with that bacteria that's starting to build up. There's a couple other natural ways too, whether it's echinacea, astragalus, like those are just good things to keep at home to help with your immune system overall. And that's, again, echinacea, astragalus, they have antiviral bacterial properties to it, but it's more of a natural, more of a food remedy to get that. But at the end of the day, I just want you to remember that, hey, these are just things to support the body once it gets it, right? But our goal is like, hey, you shouldn't have this be a recurring theme, right? Ear infection shouldn't be something that keeps showing up and showing up and showing up. And if there is something that shows up over and over and over again, it's like, well, what's the cause, right? What's really causing that to start in the first place? These other things are going to help at home, but we got to figure out the root cause so that way it doesn't even come back in the first place. And more times than not, we find almost every single time it's locked up here, and that's where we got to step in and remove that. And whether it's here, whether it's somewhere else, just let us know. We'll help find the right person for you if it's something that you're not getting care for right now, but you find that your kid constantly has ear infections show up time and time again. So those are a couple things. I just want to talk a lot about ear infections. And what's amazing, my wife was someone, she suffered from ear infections her entire life. And really since we started removing that tension and removing that kind of that log jam up top, she hasn't had an ear infection in over 8 years now. And so we see this time and time again with our kids. And it's like, hey, the body it's amazing and it wants to heal. But every once in a while we just find, hey, things are jammed up, locked up, and it's just really interfering with how the body is supposed to heal from the beginning. So I just want to encourage you. It's like, hey, make sure you try these things at home, whether it's the astragalus, echinacea, garlic oil drops, but also you got to make sure you have someone that can get in there and remove that log jam with a specific chiropractic adjustment to get that drainage to flow down like it was designed to from the very, very beginning. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, like, share, save this. If you know someone who has a kid who's going through a lot of ear infections, maybe a lot of antibiotics, and antibiotics really can destroy that gut health and create a lot of more bigger issues down the road, let us know. Share this with them. Let us help point them in the right direction. If you're a parent and your kid has had a lot of ear infections and it seems like you just can't get over the hump and you feel like, man, I've been searching and I don't know where else to go, give us a call. Ask us questions. We're here to help you. We're here to serve you and point you in the right direction. So hope this helps you, and share this with anyone you think would benefit.